Shavuot Tov to everyone. This week's parasha is Parashat Vayetchanan, which is the second parasha of Sefer Dvarim. And other than that, tomorrow evening is Tisha B'Av, the fast, maybe our strongest, our saddest day of the year. The day of, many things happen on Tisha B'Av. The main thing that we all remember and that we all are commanded to remember every year is the destruction of our temples, both the temples. But as we all know, also our prophets say that this is the day that our temples also begins its rebuilding. Today is the day, or tomorrow is the day of the birth of Mashiach. So we thought to connect the two topics. We always speak about the parasha here. We'll say something that connects it to Tisha B'Av, the Ishbitz's Vort. The one we wanted to focus on this week. In this parasha Vayetchanan, the main theme of the parasha is Moshe Rabbeinu praying or even begging HaKadosh Baruch Hu after his sin that he strikes the rock where he shouldn't have struck it. He should have spoke to it, as we all know. Then after this story, then he's punished by losing his ticket, losing his right to come into the land of Israel after he's led the people out of Egypt, and the culmination of all of the path that he's led the people through, and he loses this right, this merit to come into the land of Israel. A very formidable result of what he's done. And he begs to Hashem, he prays to Hashem. Our sages say that he prayed taktav tefillot, 515 prayers to beg Hashem to allow him in, until HaKadosh Baruch Hu even told him that that's enough, you should die, enough prayers. But again, all these prayers seemingly aren't answered by Hashem. So the Ishbitzer notes, he brings from the Midrash, that Moshe Rabbeinu had a question on HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that why aren't if I prayed so much, what comes of all of my begging? So this is like a phenomena each one of us can relate to, that sometimes you want something, you don't get it, but even the sheer will that you put into it feels vain. So why did I ask so much? Why did I make such an effort? So there's this question here as well. Other than Moshe Rabbeinu's will to come into Israel, he doesn't want to feel that all of his prayers, again, 515, this grand, ridiculous number of prayers, hard to conceive what that even means, to pray 515 prayers. But he prayed, again, everything he could. He put his entire self into it. And seemingly it was in vain. Nothing came of it. So at the end of this dialogue between HaKadosh Baruch Hu and Moshe Rabbeinu, so Moshe has this sensation of, what about the prayers? What comes of the prayers? And the answer that Hashem gives him is that Adrabah, the opposite. The reason this whole occurrence was only for those prayers. Like there's a value in the prayer in of itself. Now this is what the Ishbitz contemplates on in this parasha. And we'll connect that very, very interestingly to one of the maybe most important themes about Beis HaMikdash. Like we said in Tisha B'Av, when we mourn the destruction of our temple, we're also very focused, maybe even more focused. There's a custom in all of the communities of Israel that after noon, after the high noon of the day of Tisha B'Av, in the midst of the fast, the height of the fast, and there's a custom to clean the house, to start cleaning up the living room, because to prepare for the birth of Mashiach, for a new coming. So every destruction, every trauma, every breaking is always breaking grounds for a new building. And it's very much pronounced in Tisha B'Av. So again, as much as it's a day of mourning on our past temples, it's also a day of contemplating and focusing on the building of the new temple. And in the new temple, there's a very fundamental question, like an existential question of attitude, which we can very easily identify even today within the different people of Israel, different aspects, different communities or attitudes amongst our people, of how the temple should be built. How should we as a people go about building a temple, and also in the prophecies, how to understand the prophecies. Now, one of the maybe more prominent Orthodox views sees the entire building of the temple, the entire concept of our third temple, as something miraculous that's supposed to come down from heaven. So you need to do good deeds, like all the children's songs say, that every deed you do is a brick in the wall. And it's all like a metaphor to something divine, something spiritual. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to bring down the temple. And also in our sages and Chazal, in the prophecies, we see very explicit implications to this, that the temple is constructed and waiting in heavens. So whatever that means, it's obviously referring to something that's above and lofty, something we don't understand. It's not something that in order to culminate, you'd go and rent a building company. It's going to come down. You have to do tshuva. You have to return to Hashem and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. He'll bring down this temple from heaven. But on the other hand, we see also in the Poskim and also in Chazal that the coming, or just like all the other temples, at the end, someone's going to have to lay the bricks with cement, with your bare two hands. So this question of who's going to build Beis Hamikdash, how is Beis Hamikdash, is it a spiritual, lofty, miraculous occurrence, or is it a natural process that we need to devote ourselves to from the bottom up, from the top to the bottom, or from the bottom up? And like all of these existential debates, and there's a lot to contemplate here, obviously, but we're putting it in a nutshell. Like all of these seeming contradictions. So always when you study the depth of the Torah, the Chasidut, so the aspiration is always to manage to settle them as one. Elu ve'elu divrei Elokim chaim, to reveal how each one of the interpretations is highlighting a different aspect of one whole. And the more I can grasp all the interpretations together, make a partzuf, a constellation of them all, then the more I'll have a full picture that of the actual reality that our sages were aspiring to depict. So also here, even if you have two seemingly contradicting opinions, and as we said before, it's very easy to identify within the people, within the strives and aspirations of our people today, which communities, which attitudes in Jewish people are more leaning to a natural process of hands-on progression, and who are more devoted to rectifying the spiritual entities that will ignite or be the catalyst to bring down or to allow Kadosh Baruch Hu, or to koska Kadosh Baruch Hu, to bring down the divine temple, but aren't looking to make natural processes. It's very easy to see, even amongst ourselves, how there's these different inclinations or different leanings of how to approach the topic. And it's not only about the building of the temple. The building of the temple is like an archetype of everything in life. So in everything in our lives, we can see these two ideas manifesting. Am I supposed to devote myself? Like if I'm a believing person, I believe that everything that's happening is in divine providence. But should I focus myself on my direct dialogue with Hashem and rectifying whatever needs to be rectified there, so that everything inevitably fixes itself? Or is HaKadosh Baruch Hu expecting of me to go hands-on and take up the challenge and fix reality with my two bare hands? Which approach should I take? So this is true in any circumstance in life, not only in the building of the temple. The building of the temple is only an archetype of all these things. But now we're focused on this archetype, which is also a very true occurrence that we're all yearning to, especially in this time of the year. So as we said, in Chasidut, the aspiration is always to view all contradicting points of view as a constellation, as different angles of the same image that we're watching. So we want to put them all together. Same thing here. That phrase means that all the mentioned opinions, definitely if they're in our primordial stages, so they're all the true word of Hashem, even if they're seemingly contradictory. In order to be able to understand that, then you have to zoom out and get like a bird's eye view, so that you can see a broad enough picture where everything comes together. So what's explained on these two contradicting opinions? Does HaKadosh Baruch Hu bring down the temple, or do we build the temple? So the word, very simply, and again, it's a very fundamental concept in Chasidut, is that we need to do everything on our own. And obviously, we live in a reality, a material reality. Everything needs to be done. So if you're going to have a brick wall, someone's going to have to lay those bricks. But in order for it to sustain, for it to be really something that Hashem can dwell in, it will be the dwelling place of Hashem. That's what the temple is, the home of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So it needs to be done in a manner that a person can act, yet not feel that it's his merit and his skill and his strength that is actualizing, that he has an actual vivid sensation that what I'm doing here is a divine, it's not my power, it's Hashem's doing. It's sometimes, maybe in a much more minor scale, a person can see how he does something, and all the circumstances work out, everything. And again, in certain circumstances, certain contemplations, there's literally a sensation that I'm doing something, but Hashem did this. So maybe even someone will contemplate you, but you feel, again, not just something you say in your mouth, that, oh, it's all Hashem, it wasn't me. No, but sometimes you really feel it that way. Like if you were exposed to the circumstances and what happened in the background, in the backstage of a certain occurrence, sometimes you know for a fact that it wasn't you. Maybe you didn't even mean to do it, but it happens, and everybody looks at you and claps their hands, and you experientially feel that wasn't me. I didn't do that. So sometimes a person says that, you feel that he's just being modest or faking it even. But sometimes it's just real. He really doesn't think he did it. Maybe even then other people think he's faking it, but he actually means it. So obviously that's what we mean here. It's not something that you need to, like a mantra, you need to recite. It wasn't me, it was Hashem. But we need to learn to act in a way that we're focused on HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence enough that we can actually sense that what we're doing isn't ourselves. Really. And when I feel it that way, then I can conjure, you can see how a person's physical initiative, my own choice and action, can simultaneously be an utter reflection of a divine entity, of a miraculous occurrence. So this is, again, what's explained in Chasidut. These two seemingly contradictory explanations in Chazal. That the temple, on the one hand, it's explicitly said by our prophets, is going to come down from heaven. On the other hand, it's also explicit in our prophets that we're going to build it with our own two hands. So the way these two contradictory prophecies are conjured into one is that we need to build it in a way that we can experientially sense that this is coming down from heaven. So if I do something and I clearly feel and experience it, this is not my power, not my merit, it's not my ability manifested here. It's all a divine help, a divine drive. It's driving me. And then even though I've circumstantially built it, I can still truthfully, completely truthfully look at it and say, this just came down from heaven, like a fiery temple just came down from, I didn't do this. So both prophecies need to culminate at once, and for that to happen, then we need to develop enough of a sensitivity to Hashem's presence and His providence in our lives, so that even our own initiative actions become something that are experientially expressing Hashem's help and Hashem's drive and motivation that He's flowing through us. Again, not as a mantra or something you say. That has to be the way we feel, the way we experience ourselves. Now, so first of all, that's a very important thing to contemplate on Tisha B'Av. So tomorrow's Tisha B'Av, we can all focus on that. We need to do 100% of both in order for Mashiach to come. We need to be 100% active and take 100% of initiative in anything we want to have happen. We need everything the prophets say. It says there's going to be a temple built, we have to build that temple. If it says that there's going to be peace all over the world, we have to bring peace all over the world. If it says all of the nations are going to learn Torah, we have to teach all the nations Torah. If it says that we're going to raise the dead, then we have to learn to raise the dead. That's going to happen by us doing it. But as far-fetched as that might seem today, even though it might not seem so far-fetched anymore, like all the prophecies don't seem so far-fetched anymore. But even the most far-fetched prophecies, we have to devote ourselves to culminating it with our own two hands. But in order for it actually to manifest and to work, and for Hashem's blessing to dwell on it, and for it to be something divine, it will only work if it's something that can encompass Hashem's presence. Because that's what will bring the blessing for it to work. So for us to manage this feat, this leap, it may be a technological leap, then we need to manage it in a way that when we do it, it will reveal that this was Hashem's providence. And that will also be what enables us to do it. So it's not just our two hands, we also need to use our hands with a straight head. So these are the two contradictory edges that need to conjure into one in order to bring Mashiach. So that's first of all a very important word to contemplate on for all of us on Tisha B'Av. Now we'll go back to what the Ishbitzer says about Moshe Rabbeinu. Then what was the answer? This is how he explains exactly what the answer was from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. There are two aspects in every deed. So this is also an archetype contemplation in Torah and Chasidut. There's the outcome, like how much of an outcome did you achieve when you want to give tzedakah? Then did the poor person get his lunch? That's very important. But there's intent, and there's always the question: what's more important, the intent or the outcome? So obviously, like in all of these, like we mentioned before, they're both 100% important, and they need to be conjured into one. But what HaKadosh Baruch Hu was telling him about just the prayer being important is that just the effort, the mental effort of refining a person's awareness so that it becomes something that can be sensitive and encompass HaKadosh Baruch Hu's presence, that in itself is an achievement. Not just the outcome. Did I answer your prayer technically here? Did you go into Israel? So Hashem tells him, no, you should know, you should teach your people. You're the archetype, Moshe Rabbeinu. You're the prophet, you're the one who reflects this truth. So you need to reflect it onto the people. There has to be a devoted effort into refining consciousness in of itself. not only in dependence on outcome. Now, really, the epitome of this all is that the outcome and the consciousness conjure to one, like we said before. But both aspects are invaluable. You can't let go of either one of them. And therefore, even though Moshe Rabbeinu says, I prayed so much, what comes of this? So Hashem says, no, what came of it is the effort to pray. And that effort, it refines your consciousness. It enables you to receive more. And just that work, that effort itself is a valuable effort. And there's also the matter of outcome. Also, outcome is very important. And when you have them both, then you can have an outcome that is done in a way that your consciousness can realize Hashem's presence in the outcome. But you need to work on both edges. So that connects to what we just described about Beis Hamikdash. So the path, the practical path to building our third temple is that we should start looking for good builders. We should ourselves be good builders and achieve these skills, these simple skills of laying bricks. But we also need to have builders that are willing to also devote themselves in prayer and study, to be sensitive enough that when they lay a brick, they can feel experientially that Hashem is giving them the strength to lay that brick. And when they do it, they'll look at the brick and they'll feel that it's a miraculous brick. Hashem just laid a brick. I didn't even do it. And those bricks will constitute Beis Hamikdash, Bezrat Hashem. So everybody should have, first of all, Mashiach should come by tomorrow. Nobody should fast at all. But if Chas v'Shalom we end up fasting, you should have an easy fast. And contemplate throughout the fast on how we need to conjure two contradictory paradoxes and contain them within ourselves in order to build Beis Hamikdash, the third Beis Hamikdash, Bezrat Hashem.